So my presentation is on responses to natural disasters. So for a brief activity, I want you to close your eyes and imagine that you and your family have been asked to evacuate your home because a hurricane is coming. What kind of things are you imagining? How are you feeling? Where do you imagine that you're going? Go ahead.
I would imagine going to the highest level so I can try to stay off ground level. And I would just try to protect my family as much as I could. Grab food and water, clean water sources, and yeah.
So you don't imagine evacuating? You imagine it in your house?
I would imagine, yes.
Okay. Well, a lot of people, this is their reality, that they have to stay in their home because they cannot afford transportation. They don't have vehicles. They don't have money to go to hotels. Some people don't have family where they can evacuate to a different housing location. So I'm related to this topic because I have family in North Carolina that recently just experienced Hurricane Matthew. And during the whole process, I was very worried for my family's well-being because I didn't know if their property was going to be damaged, if they were going to be harmed. I was just really concerned for their well-being. So I experienced the hurricane through Facebook and through my aunt's Facebook posts mostly. I took a few examples of things I found interesting. So one of them was my aunt was going to a business meeting, and in the parking lot of where she was going to do her business was a lake, and she was unable to drive up, and they were reaching the business by boat. Another thing was a post she made, such a sad and scary drive through North and South Carolina this morning. Entire town still underwater, down trees, water up to the sides of the roads and spots. Many detours to get here, so sad to see the devastation. So no one seems to be harmed, but there definitely was a lot of devastation. And some posts that I highlighted for a different reason were Emma Sue is quite enjoying the hurricane party, complete with a pillow fort in the hall. I have rooms booked in Raleigh and Charlotte. I have until the day of to check in to cancel one or both. And lastly, we are all hunkered down with food and water and wine for a week. My main concern is how to lose all the weight from all the bad food we will be eating. So these last three posts I highlighted because it definitely shows her privilege more. They had access to not only one emergency relocation option, but two, as well as they seem to be making a joke of the hurricane in general and very unworried about their well-being. They seem to have all the provisions they need. So this highlights an aspect of the presentation of accessibility to safety and the questions of who can afford safety, as well as does everyone have equal opportunity and access to safety. And as you can see, all people may not have equal access to it. And one of my sources, titled Migration and the Environment, said, in natural disasters, the most vulnerable people are often the ones forced to either move because they live in marginal, low-lying, or steep slope areas with greater exposure to hazards, or they live in poor quality housing and therefore subject to greater losses. In my example, my family did not experience this. They're in a very wealthy neighborhood and had access to the things they needed to survive. But as I'm going to continue to highlight in people's experience in Haiti, that this is not always the same. So I'm going to show a video clip.
first glimpse of the coastal communities hit hardest by Hurricane Matthew, and marooned from the rest of the country for the past 48 hours. This is what's left of Jérémie, the home to 31,000 people, a place known as Haiti's City of Poets. But now it's become ground zero in this humanitarian crisis, and much of it looks like a scrap heap. The destruction is almost complete. About 80% of the buildings have been destroyed. Antoine Louis is a farmer, now unable to feed even his family. I've lost all the food in my house, he says. We've nothing to cook, and we're starving. The relief effort is still being hampered by the floodwaters that have cut off the southwest of the country. But as more roads become passable and more coastal communities are reached, the number of dead keeps on rising. In the capital, Port-au-Prince, reminders that it's not just the hurricane and the after effects of the 2010 earthquake that Haiti is confronting. It's also in the grip of a cholera epidemic spread by contaminated water that over the past 6 years has killed 10,000 people. Aid organisations have warned that an already extremely poor sanitation system has been totally overwhelmed by flooding. And that means the disease could spread much more quickly. The Bahamas may be a world away in terms of wealth and privilege, but they've been battered by the same high winds. They've downed trees and also power lines. And next in the hurricane's path, Florida, where for some the churning seas have become the state's latest tourist attraction.
If you're in an evacuation zone and you're watching this, evacuate. Evacuate, evacuate, evacuate.
This one-way traffic shows that warnings are being heeded. A mass evacuation is underway, and no wonder. This hurricane could be the worst to make landfall in America in more than a decade. Nick Bryant, BBC News, Haiti.
Loading. Okay, so this kind of transitions from beyond the U.S. to Haiti. So for more historical context, in 1804, Haiti achieved freedom from France during their revolution. This was when slaves revolted and they finally got their freedom. In order to have that freedom, they had to pay France for it, and in order to pay them, it's called retribution, they had to borrow money from the U.S. and Germany. So when the U.S. let Haiti borrow the money from them, when the U.S. let Haiti borrow money from them, the U.S. occupied Haiti, and they have been there since 1915. Even after Haiti paid the U.S. or United States back, which was around World War II, the United States remained in Haiti. They did not leave, even though they had their finances back. World Bank and IMF offered loans to Haiti in return or exchange that the banks would be allowed to liberalize the economy. And what's really dangerous about this is that when a country has a really unstable economy already, allowing someone else to liberalize their economy basically means that they're going to get to control everything, and that's the end of the story. Okay. Just continuing. This also makes it hard to withstand global competition. One example of this is when Haiti was forced to open their market to rice from the United States because Haiti could not protect its own agricultural industry. So, history of resistance against... Oh my goodness. History of resistance... included... So for the history of resistance, there have been several resistances to these systems of power that oppress the people. This includes challenges to the FCPA, which is Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and this was legislation passed that was supposed to help donated money actually make it to the causes that they were donating to. There's a lot of corruption with both the United States government and the government in Haiti. And largely what people do to resist this is have protests. There's been a lot of protests about different things. An example, or a few examples, are to set up like temporary housing. There have been camps and very temporary shelters set up, which they refer to as camps. Rich people don't really like these camps in their neighborhoods. So goodness. It's also very difficult to resist government and foreign entities in the country because places like the United States control a lot of their government. There's also been protests for... Let me see. Yeah. See, it's right here. Protests for bulldozing homes in Jalousie. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it correctly. But this is the city that was most heavily hit during Hurricane Matthew, and there's been about 80% of the homes in the city were destroyed. So people in rich neighborhoods are trying to push to have these basically destroyed homes just bulldozed and get the wreckage out of the neighborhood. And people are protesting because they don't want their homes bulldozed, of course, even if they are partially destroyed. And as far as praxis and positionality, my thought was to mostly spread knowledge and make people aware of how certain disaster relief corporations can be really detrimental to Haiti. A lot of people have protested against the Red Cross being in their country because Red Cross says that they are very helpful and that that billions of dollars are being used to reconstruct the city, but in fact Haiti has not seen most of these changes be made. Some good corporations, or not corporations, some organizations that you can donate to are Food for the Poor, Hope for Haiti, World Vision, Heart to Heart International, Orphan Grain Train. And as far as my positionality, I'm a student and a U.S. citizen, so I don't have to deal with living in a third world country, and I'm also privileged to only learn about these topics and educate others than live it firsthand.